Happy February. This is Sam Simon, Dementia Man. And for my video blog this week, you would think I wanted to talk about love. It's February, Valentine's Day. You know, what love is about, it really is life. And what's on my mind today is life and death. And if you happen to get the Washington Post and you go to the editorial page, you'll see a letter from me printed today about just this topic. You see, the Washington Post had an editorial, which I agreed with, by the way, in which they expressed grave concern about euthanasia, phrase that is used to allow people to end their lives when faced with either interminable pain or unbearable pain or a diagnosis of a fatal or terminal disease, regardless where in that disease or progress they may be. I have a strong opinion about that. Indeed, I wrote a play about that. See, that's what Dementia Man is really about. That is, whether life with a terminal disease, in this case, Alzheimer's, and particularly a mental disease, but a life with any terminal disease is not worth living till its natural end. I know that there are various points of view on this. I have engaged, and well, let me say this, it's a fundamental question about what we think of life and of death. I've always treasured living. And in fact, my first work and my first play, called The Actual Dance, is about being the care partner to my wife, who was not supposed to survive. And it was the voice of the care partner. I watched my wife as she was determined, no matter what, to be positive, even in the face of incredibly difficult odds, and never gave up. And she is an unlikely survivor. So there's an argument. So my first argument is that every illness, every moment, there is a bell curve where most people at the top of the curve will follow a normal course of that disease, which may well be inevitably death. There are some who are at one extreme where they are among those who survive only a short time. And there are those on the other side that last more than the median or the average. And then there's always somebody who's an unlikely survivor. And I'm a voice to be the unlikely survivor. This discussion, though, about euthanasia is about somebody who is in a state of some sort of extreme pain and extreme difficulty, and may even express a desire to end or stop and not want to live, perhaps confined to a bed, perhaps having periodic extreme pain, and want to choose to just end it all now. And I appreciate the wanting to end it. No, I've never wanted to end my life. And at this point, even with this disease, even though I have mounting symptoms, I have not wavered in my belief that if nothing else, my journey can add to the knowledge of science in a way that perhaps accelerates discovery of new treatments and perhaps the cure for Alzheimer's disease. Reading the article in the Washington Post, however, in which they discussed issues of euthanasia, and Canada's got very liberal rules and allow people with under many conditions that they have this disease. The disease is confirmed by doctors, but most importantly, that they give informed consent. So what this blog post is really about is informed, and I'm doing quotes with my hands, informed consent. And what can constitute informed consent? And the reason my letter was printed, because reading and thinking about this, I had an aha moment. And I know what I'm about to say is going to sound silly to some. But it was my insight that I believe that it is impossible for any individual to be informed about what death means. And that the choice to end life in an informed way is, in fact, impossible. We know what life is, we know what pain is, and we may well want to stop the pain. What we don't know is what death is like. And there is no scientific evidence about the state of death. There are various religious beliefs about the state of death. There are those who believe in reincarnation, those who believe that we go to some other place, perhaps a heaven. There's no idea of the state of that other place. And I've had enough of my own personal encounters with the unknown. I've had out-of-body experiences. That is, I can sit and watch myself in the room with Susan. Even today, I remember it. And she was given her diagnosis, which as I could see it, I was watching above, and I knew that what we were looking at was a death penalty for her, a death, not penalty, but it was not going to work out well. I have no explanation for that. And I've read enough from enough different people about similar moments. And I'm also, believe that I don't believe that there is a bodily experience as we understand and live it today, but I don't know what it is. So my thought for the day, if the week, if nothing else, that is as we consider how to live our lives, even under the most difficult circumstances, that we understand that there is no understanding of the other side, of what happens after we're gone, and that choosing to create a euthanasia industry would, among many other things, create a profit incentive for people to provide end-of-life support, even if you have to have multiple different doctors sign off on things. I think that instead the country needs to invest every penny it can and all the energy it can in finding cures and providing the palliative care for those who are in need of that, to let them continue on for as long as it is possible. I understand that there are all sorts of factors, but I've come to believe too that the pain of particularly dementia, I hate the word, and cognitive disease is much more in the life of the partner. As I transform into someone else, I can be me. I may be mean. I may be nasty. I won't be who I was when my wife married me. I won't be who I was when I raised my children. And they don't need to have an obligation to interact with me. They don't have to experience the pain of watching me. I don't think that's necessary. I do believe, and I believe I have it, and that is the obligation. I'm going to be with my wife, even if I would be with my wife. Indeed, I faced that moment. no matter what happens to her. But that's because I made a promise, a sacred promise to do that. And those promises, I think, are not breakable. On the other hand, when I cease being the old me, and I become somewhat different, then the relationship and even those promises may have changed. There is an obligation to see that I am cared for, but not necessarily to be the person doing it. And if she or anyone else needs a break, they are entitled to get that. But to wish me gone, facilitate that, have that as a real viable option, I don't support. Because yes, at some point in time, that might be the easiest out. So, in Judaism, there is a core value, a core ethic, and that is choose life. Under any circumstance, choose life. And so I think that in this context as well, the right obligation is to choose life, whatever it may be, however we don't really recognize that and project our views of what's happening inside that head, that we choose life and we provide the greatest dignity and support and love no matter what happens. And so that's my thought for this week. If you get to Washington Post, check it out, February 1st. Letters to the editor, Samuel A. Simon, Dementia Man.